is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
Welcome to it. It's Free for All Friday. The phone number here at the Steve Gruber Show, 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. We had this conversation yesterday, getting started in earnest now. Consumers Energy saying this new clean energy plan from the Obama administration is going to put you in the dark, and I mean literally. There's a perfect storm brewing in Michigan's Lower Peninsula, according to the state's two largest utilities, that being DTE and Consumers. Both warning of electricity generation capacity shortfalls in Michigan as soon as May of 2016. That is because 9 coal-fired power plants are being retired to meet President Obama's aggressive global warming green energy campaign. You see, Michigan's going to get hit harder than just about anyone. 1.3 gigawatts, that's enough power to supply Detroit, Grand Rapids, and Lansing, is going away. You see, these power plants are being retired, they're going away, and we had Consumers Energy people on this program not long ago. They said, oh, it's not going to be a big deal. You know, your power bill is going to go up 3 or 4%. It's not going to be a crisis. Well, actually, there's a lot of information to the contrary. Coal plant retirements include Consumers Energy Classic 7 coal plants. They'll be gone by April of 2016. So rolling blackouts, brownouts, and power problems, according to some reports, and reports that we're finding now, will be the new normal in Michigan. You can't store electricity, so it's important to try to have a surplus of it. There will be no surplus. So when a big energy demand comes, like a heat wave, the one that was supposed to come this week and never materialized because, well, meteorologists try to make a 7-day forecast they're not accurate about, but apparently we're supposed to trust them on 70-year forecast because they're more accurate than that, because the computer models say this might happen or that might happen. You ever watch computer models when it comes to hurricanes and how they change every couple of hours? And yet we're supposed to believe that these computer models are accurate for 10, 20, 50 years down the road. The fact of the matter is projected shortfalls by 2020 will be 7% short of what we need capacity. By 2023, 18%. By 2025, 24%. 10 years from now, we'll be 24% short on what we need power-wise. And so this is the end result. I suppose you like sitting in the dark, Shane. Get some candles because we're going back to the 19th century.
Well, candles. My wife and many other females would think that's really cool. My wife, sits around with lots of candles. Sometimes I think I'm in a seance when I'm at home.
That's great. She also likes to walk to the light switch and have it work when she flips it.
Yeah. She does. And electricity is very important for many things that we rely on because our food preservation method is cold.
Period.
As opposed to some of the other methods of canning and salting, etc. from the past, we rely almost entirely on cold refrigeration to preserve our food.
I think it's absolutely, the whole damn place runs on electricity.
Yeah.
Food, entertainment, information, hospitals, technology, it all runs, every bit of it runs on electricity. And by 2025, and here the states are going to be hit the worst, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North and South Dakota, and parts of Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, and Canada, all right in our neighborhood.
Imagine that.
And our shortfalls.
They're all cold weather areas, too.
Yeah. and we will be 24, I was reading the chart wrong, 24 gigawatts of electricity short by 2025. And this is all part of the clean energy plan. This is all part of the Liberals' plan to make the world a better place. Keep us in the dark, make gasoline $15 a gallon. This is the Liberals' plan to make America great. Really? And they wonder why people like Donald Trump are saying, are you stupid?
Have you seen all the, you've seen the windmills they're going to save us in Gratiot County? And if you go over by Saginaw Bay, there's actually areas that have more of them.
I've seen them. I saw them this week again. They were not moving. You know why? Michigan's not that windy of a place compared to other parts of the country. First of all, windmills are not going to power the country. And number two, Michigan's a pretty bad place to put them. And number three, they're hard to hook into the grid because their power generation is inconsistent.
That's right. They do better along the shore, like Saginaw Bay, but they still are not the way to do it in Michigan. Coal, natural gas. And the thing about closing these coal plants is what they give them a 2-year notice. It takes 4 years to build a plant, even if they go to natural gas. It was pretty underhanded.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing, that they're building the new power plant in Holland that's a natural gas plant, which, seems like a pretty good idea. It's powered by natural gas, Michigan being one of the larger producers of natural gas in the country and therefore the world. But they're really expensive to build, and you know who gets to pay for the new plants? You and I do.
Well, yeah.
So we're building all brand new power plants, which take years to build, by the way. And we're supposed to believe that it's not going to cost much of anything, maybe 3 or 4%. Won't cost much. Oh, and by the way, the power will be consistent. No, it won't. I'm here to tell you right now. By this time of 2016, if we have any serious heat waves, we will have already been experiencing power outages. And you know what they'll say? It's the fault of global warming. No, it's not the fault of global warming. It's the fault that we turned off power plants that were perfectly fine and working and running just fine. I've seen this problem around Frankfort, Kentucky, and congratulations, Michigan. You've allowed this ridiculous approach to come into Michigan where I'm telling you, all right, so your power's going to be off for a couple of hours or 4 hours or 6 hours a day. Are you all right with that? How about longer? How about rolling blackouts all summer long? Are you okay with that? What about just brownouts where you can only get a certain amount of power? It's like being on a generator that has limited capacity all day long, and if you turn on a couple of things, you just blow a breaker. You just don't get the power you need.
Well, here's the thing. People are going to prepare for it by putting in individual generators. Is that really carbon perfect?
No, because generators don't have the emissions standards.
That's right.
So if your deal is about cleaning up the air and so forth, well then you might want to get better standards on your generators. Of course, in the meantime, the government's also going to ban these outside wood furnaces because those put too much particulate in the air. So we're going to take away your electricity and say you can't burn wood to heat yourself. They're going to make people just absolutely dependent on the government. What is wrong, folks? Anyhow, there's something for you to think about on this Free-for-All Friday. Just sit in the dark, turn the lights off, and pretend it's next year. It's the Steve Gruber Show, 888-900-9966.
Delivering Michigan's common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
Try to see things my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can go on? While you see it your way.
All righty, welcome to it, my friends. Free for All Friday, 888-900-9966. Going to the hotline this Free for All Friday. Mark is on the line from Weberville this day. Welcome to it, Mark.
Hi, Steve. Love your show. Thanks for taking my call. Have you ever considered propane generators? I bought one off the internet. I haven't had the opportunity to use it yet, but it's supposed to be a lot cleaner burning, and if the grid goes down and you can't get gasoline, well, there's another alternative that may be better than wind power.
Actually, there are some dual-fuel generators out there that I think some use propane and gasoline. I'd have to look. But I know that there's some generators out there. Yeah, so you can put regular gasoline in it as well?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking, if I go with propane, then I don't have to worry about the gumming up of the gasoline in the fuel system. but I haven't, like I said, I haven't had a power outage to use it yet.
Well, just go hit your fuse box or whatever with a bulb bat, and then test out the generator. See how that check it out, Mark.
Okay, I just thought I'd run that by you.
No, that's good.
Thanks,
Generac
Steve.
makes great equipment. Thank you, Mark, for checking in. I greatly appreciate you listening. 888-900-9966. A lot of folks I know have generators. I have a small generator, but I'd like to have one of those that automatically kicks on. And I suppose if you're in a blackout mode, you're not paying for the electricity coming from consumers' energy. But if we really, but what are you going to do? Who gets punished the most in this scenario? And the answer is people at the bottom end of the spectrum. People at the bottom end of the financial spectrum. Those that can least afford it are the ones that get punished the most. Let's be honest. The folks that are struggling to make the bills now aren't running out to buy a $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 generator now, are they? And the answer is, of course, no. Just something to consider. It's Free for All Friday, 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. Now, new Defense Department guidelines allow commanders to punish journalists and treat them as, quote, unprivileged belligerents. Now, I knew some of those folks, actually, unprivileged belligerents. I might have been one of those. But that is if they believe journalists are sympathizing or cooperating with the enemy. Really? The Law of War Manual, updated to apply for the first time to all branches of the military, contains a vaguely worded provision that military commanders could interpret broadly. Experts in military law and journalism, and it's a little frightening to me. So my good friend and colleague Melissa Proffitt, a veteran news reporter, joining me to talk about the fact that journalists can be targeted more and more, it seems. Melissa, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me.
It just seems that journalists, we find ourselves in the crosshair more and more. Give us your source, and if you don't, you go to jail. And by the way, if you write a story that we don't like, we're going to call it being an unprivileged belligerent, and maybe haul you off to jail for that. It's a bit much, isn't it?
It is a bit much. And if you read this document even further, another provision says that relaying of information could be construed as taking a direct part in hostilities. So that's delivering your newscast. And if they don't like what you say, guess what? You are now one of the unprivileged belligerents.
So just so I'm clear, you and I could be targeted because we're doing a newscast or a program and talking about information they didn't want it disseminated, and especially if it's unfriendly information. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton can have a server that's unprotected and possibly have been infiltrated by all sorts of folks, and she's good to go. I'm confused.
Yeah, I know it is very confusing, but I think here's what's scary, and here's what we have to look at. Historically, when a country is being taken over, the first two things that happen are, the military is compromised, and right now we have our government systematically taking nearly all seasoned and military leadership in the last 6 years are being forced through retirement. They're getting rid of them. Then the second thing that happens is all media is then controlled by the government. And you just have to look at Cuba, Russia, China, etc. The list goes on.
Sure.
Our military is being compromised. And now they're putting stuff out like this that says, now we need to look at controlling the media.
And
We're going to declare them belligerent, make them unprivileged, shut them out from all access to information so that they only give you what we want you to hear. And
that's right. And one of the things you hit on
we need to open our eyes to this.
I think you're right on. The thing that you pointed out there that I don't think a lot of people realize is that how many of the military brass has been eliminated since Barack Obama took over in the White House.
Right.
You're probably not allowed to cover the story, but you're right. Commanders at all levels have been eliminated if they don't buy into the company line, whatever the company line is from Barack Obama. So generals and admirals and all sorts of brass being eliminated from the U.S. military, that's a huge story.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that there's not ever been a time where the military has just let journalists freely go on base or, in restricted areas. My brother was one of the folks who escorted Brian Williams when he was over in Afghanistan. And, he would tell stories about, sure, Brian's going to ask, can we go there? Can we go here? Can I go talk to this person? And my brother would just have to say, no, that's not allowed. I'm sorry. You know where your confinement is. You know where you need to stay. But Brian still, allegedly got the information that he needed to deliver.
Yeah.
But there have always been restrictions, and there still are restrictions. So this is just absolutely unnecessary.
Yeah, Brian Williams was allowed to daydream a lot in the camp, where he made up all sorts of fanciful tales of his adventures. Yes. Anyhow, I think we're going down a bad rabbit hole here, Melissa. I agree with you on that, and I think that we do need to spend more time talking about what's happened to the military leadership in America. But you're right, tying the hands of journalists all together. I mean, let's be honest. This president, and then you look at what Hillary Clinton does, roping off journalists. Journalists are more controlled today than they've ever been in my lifetime and yours, which I think is not a good thing. I'll give you 20 seconds for the last word.
I think that as journalists, we just have to open up our eyes. And I think that we still have to stand up for freedom of speech and freedom to deliver the truth. And that truth cannot be dictated to us by the government.
Or filtered, as it were. Filtered by the government. Melissa Proffitt, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Thanks.
There you have it, everybody. Melissa Proffitt here on the program.
Getting your day started with news from around the state and around the world. Common Sense Radio. This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right. It's Free for All Friday here on the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you on board. Glad to have you here. If you'd like to get involved with the conversation, the number is 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. Share your thoughts, tell your friends, get on board on the Steve Gruber Show. The question of redistricting always seems to come up every few years. The term gerrymandering and the way that congressional districts are drawn have been contentious from time to time. The party in power, the Democrats or the Republicans, generally have a pretty good hand in controlling how it works. And whenever the other party makes some differences, the party not in power tends to complain a lot. Our next guest is Judy Karandjeff, president of the League of Women Voters here in Michigan. Judy, welcome to the program. And your last name is pronounced exactly how?
Karandjeff.
Karandjeff. Yeah, it's the best I could do on short notice.
No, you're doing a great job.
Judy, welcome to the program. All right, so the League of Women Voters in Leelanau County is looking at the problems of gerrymandering, redistricting, and so forth. Why now? What's the concern?
Since the decision by the U.S. Supreme Court in the end of June that said independent redistricting commissions were constitutional, there's been a lot of interest in what other states have done. And so for that reason, the League's holding about 30 town halls that'll be between September 8th and November 15th around the state to talk about the issue.
And what is the issue at hand that is concerned for the League of Women Voters?
Well, the League, as you know, is a nonpartisan organization, and we really support active participation of citizens in government. And the problem right now with redistricting, our politicians are choosing their own voting maps, as you just said, to manipulate elections and keep themselves and their parties in power. So the voters are kind of left out of this process. They're not choosing their elected officials.
Now, here in Michigan, I don't know if I buy that. There are 14 congressional districts in Michigan, right?
Right.
And of those 14, 5 are Democrat, 9 are Republican, and yet that would be disproportionate compared to the voting of the 2012 presidential election, for example, when only 18 of the 83 counties in Michigan were blue, 65 counties out of 83 were red in Michigan, and both U.S. senators from Michigan are Democratic. It would seem that Michigan is weighted heavily to the Democrats in Congress in many ways when the state leans center-right.
Well, I would say your numbers are different than the ones I have. For example, in 1998, the Republicans received 48% of the votes for statewide. But when it came to getting congressional seats, they only got 6 out of the 16 seats, which represented 37% of the population. So that didn't reflect what the voters did. And in 2012, when the Republicans were in control, the Democrats got 51% of the votes statewide, and they only got 5 of the 14 states, representing 36% of the population. So I think it's probably how you look at this. You were looking at districts and looking at how the people voted.
Well, we could divide it a different way. We could do it the way some people think it should be done, that each county would be given one vote, and then, if that was done across the country, the Democrats would lose badly because a far greater majority of counties vote for Republicans than Democrats in this country. Of course, the Democrats control urban areas more, and the Republicans have a much greater control of the rural areas, as everybody well knows. But I don't think that we're terribly disproportionate when 7 members of Congress from the state of Michigan are Democrats and 9 are Republican.
No, we now have 14. We now have 14
I'm including the U.S. senators. I'm including the U.S. senators. Okay. So if you add your 2 U.S. senators, there's 7 members of the United States Congress, Senate and House, that are from Michigan that are Democrats, and 9 are Republicans. It seems like a pretty even split.
Well, I don't think you can. They're 2 different houses. We're talking about that U.S. House and the Senate. I'm just talking about the congressional districts. I think the important thing for us is to make sure that the process is fair and transparent and impartial. And in states like Arizona and California...
We are talking about the government here.
Pardon me?
Fair. I said we are talking about the government. You said fair, transparent, and impartial, but we are talking about the government in fairness. Anyhow, go on.
Well, we're talking about the process, and we can hope that it has those characteristics.
Yeah, we can look to that. But, this conversation comes up on a regular basis, Judy,
right.
And yet nothing ever seems to happen. And do you really think something's going to happen this time, or are we just more conversation with the same result, which is whoever's in charge gets to draw the lines?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think the League's goal right now is to educate the public during the coming weeks and to see what we can learn from that experience.
All right. Well, Judy's here from the League of Women Voters in Leelanau County, and it's a conversation that goes on across this country and across the counties of Michigan and the nation. Where can people find out more information about what you're doing and the conversations you're having, Judy?
On our website, lwvmi.org.
All right, Judy. Greatly appreciate it, and I hope that you're able to get some resolution, because I think there must be a better way to do it than the way we've done it previously.
Thank you.
There you have it. Judy Karandjeff, the president of the League of Women Voters for Michigan. You wonder, and I don't think that Michigan is disproportionately represented in Congress by either party. So, and when the Democrats were in charge, they drew the lines. But if you look across the country now, see, the complaint primarily from the Democrats is, well, you've got 31 or 32 governors that are Republicans. The state houses in the vast majority of states now are Republicans. You see, the Democrats are losing their hold on a lot of places. I mean, you look at Michigan, 18 counties voted for Barack Obama. In Ohio, just 6. And yet Barack Obama carried both of those states. In Indiana, just 2 counties. And sometimes in places like Ohio or Michigan, it would only take 2 or 3 counties to carry the entire state, because you have the turnout of the vote efforts, the school buses with the free lunches showing up to take people to the polls, which I think is borderline suspect, I would say, because if you're offering people a free ride and free stuff to go vote, isn't that in effect buying their vote? Isn't that in effect buying somebody's vote? Isn't that Isn't that or shouldn't that be, well, frankly, illegal by design? Just something for you to consider on this Free-for-All Friday. 888-900-9966. It's the Steve Gruber Show. You can also find out more at stevegruber.com, where you can listen live at the Listen Live button or find previous interviews on the podcast button. We'll be right back.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
If you wanna hang out, you got to take her out. Cocaine.
All right, welcome back to Free for All Friday. Shane was just mentioning the Quentin Tarantino movie he saw. Well, what's that movie? When's that coming out?
I believe it's probably closer to Christmas, but new Quentin Tarantino, and another one based on a true story about mountain men, something I was fascinated my whole life. I saw a trailer for this week. Looks really good.
So old guys with long beards that don't shave or shower, that's your thing.
Have you seen me lately?
Well, yeah, you've gone feral. Hey, there you have it, everybody. If it finally comes out in the light of day, there it is. Anyhow, Chewbacca is in the studio. Hold 1 second. There's Ron Van Timmeren on the line from Celebration Cinemas to join us as well. Ron Van Timmeren, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve. Happy Force Friday to you and yours.
Thank you. My what Friday?
Force Friday. It's kind of a commercial thing for the Star Wars toys have been launched today.
Oh,
I gotcha. All kinds of social media about people stayed up all night buying Star Wars toys.
I knew I should have stayed up for something, Ron. Why couldn't you call yesterday? Gosh darn it.
Well, I think there's probably a few more toys on the shelf, Steve. You can go out after work and pick some up.
There you go. What do you got for us this week?
Well, it's the last weekend of summer. We're getting another mixed bag of movies. A Walk in the Woods looks interesting to me. I like the cast with Robert Redford and Nick Nolte, Emma Thompson, also Mary Steenburgen, two 70-year-old guys walking 2,100 miles on the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine. And what could go wrong with that? The fun ensues. And actually, it's rated R, I guess, for language, but looks like a fun comedy drama there. You like the cast?
Yeah, I like the cast a lot. I mean, I haven't seen Nick Nolte. I can't even think of the last time he was around. And what about Robert Redford? When was the last time he was around?
Well, Robert Redford had that movie where he was the lone guy on the sailboat that was sinking. That was an interesting movie, and got some praise for award season a couple years ago. The other wide release is Transporter Refueled. No Jason Statham this time, but that same premise of played by Ed Skrein. He's the action hero this time. That's on IMAX and D-Box. It's rated PG-13. Mistress America is getting some limited release from director Noah Baumbach and co-written and starring Greta Gerwig. Kind of a satire, kind of a farce, kind of a chick flick, but great reviews. 93% fresh on RottenTomatoes.com. And then Celebration Cinema kicking off Flicks Family Film Festival with a bunch of movies for the next 8 weeks that are free for kids 12 and under. This weekend it's Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. Of course, that's rated PG, starring Kevin James.
I almost feel like they should pay us to take kids to a movie that. Well, never mind. That sounds like a lot of.
You need some diversion and a cheap way to spend a couple hours out. This is a good way to do it. It's almost like getting paid, right?
Yeah, it's close. So, what is this Quentin Tarantino movie that Shane was mentioning here? You must know about it coming.
Yeah, it's called Hateful Eight. Looks very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it's having a limited release around Christmas time, and then more theaters will be added in January, kind of like American Sniper was last year, released for the holidays and the Oscar race. But, Quentin Tarantino, I mean, he makes interesting product for sure.
He does do that. Okay, and so last night Michigan didn't win the football game, but they were on the big screen in a couple of places, Lansing and Grand Rapids, and so people were able to turn out for that. You're going to be doing that all season?
You know what? Just some of the bigger games. Next weekend we'll do Michigan State and Oregon, that at Lansing and Grand Rapids, as well as the Getty Drive-In in Muskegon. We'll do a little tailgate action out there in Muskegon before the game. So big games will later in the season. Certainly Michigan State, Ohio State, and maybe Michigan, Ohio State too. It'll be some more big screen fun. Yep.
Dude, drive-in theater fun for the football game. That actually sounds like a good time to me. All right, Ron. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Happy holidays. See you at the movies.
There you have it. Hey, that sounds all right, going to a drive-in movie. I mean, Shane used to go to drive-in movies. Of course, he's a lot older than you or I. So there is that. You know, by the time I was able to go to the movies, drive-in movies had been, you know, you'd see them at the Smithsonian, but, you know, nobody that Shane had gone, like I said, but nobody I knew and nobody in my peer group had actually ever been to a drive-in movie.
Oh, right. That's not true, and you know it, Steve.
It's true. I've never been to a drive-in movie in my life.
Really?
Have you?
Well, yeah, there was, I can remember watching Walt Disney movies at the drive-in theater. I saw Easy Rider. That movie, that famous movie, at a drive-in theater when it was first released. I think my parents were a little bit in shock when they saw some of the parts, and they had me sitting there watching it at that time.
Covering your eyes.
I was not very old at the time.
No, you were about 15?
No, I was probably younger than that. You know.
Well, Shane, the movie came out in 1971, I believe, so you do the math.
Okay, I was, never mind.
Yeah. You're 25, what?
Yeah, it was. Oh, man. When was the last time somebody ran over your head with a bicycle?
Well, it's been a while.
I think it's time.
Let's see here. So what are your plans for Labor Day weekend? I know that I'm going to be up on northern Michigan water doing some tubing and some fishing.
I've been invited to go to Lake St. Clair boating, and I've been invited up to Lake Marguerite up by Grayling to do a little sailboat running around and a little fishing. So
seems to be the approach for this weekend because it's supposed to be so nice. You know, the funny thing, we were talking about this last week about the first big heat wave in a long, long time. It never really materialized. Did it hit 90 degrees once in the Lansing area?
When? Last year or this year?
No, last week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, or this week or whatever, when this heat wave was supposed to show up.
I was working on weeding on my hands and knees for several days. It's a long story, but yeah, it did get pretty close to 90 the last couple of days.
But not a real, genuine, honest-to-goodness heat wave. Just kind of hot, but not 96 for 3 days in a row. Anyhow, it's Free for All Friday. Your thoughts are welcome at 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. Just kind of enjoying the day. It's the Steve Gruber Show.